What's up, co-counsels? All right, I hope you guys had a good weekend. Let me share my screen. We are about to get into Lori Daybell here. I watched part of the prosecution's opening. Did not get a chance to watch Lori because when she started her opening, it was 5 p.m. Eastern time, and I had to go pick up my daughter. So this will be my first reaction, I suppose. Let me just find the proper timestamp. I'm exhausted today. I'm really tired. Ooh, okay. Big shout out to Lori. I watched a little bit of a cross examination though. She was cross examining a witness. She struggled a little bit, but I'm here. I'm here to help her. Stand by counsel. I'm here to assist Lori. All right, let's see. Is this opening? I believe so.
All right, the defendant can proceed with her opening statement.
All right. Shout out to Big Lori. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
Okay, you need to project your voice a bit louder now, Lori. You need to speak louder than that.
ladies and gentlemen of the jury,
She
I have
seems
been charged with
nervous.
a crime, a serious crime, and the only question here is, did I commit this crime? Conspiracy. Conspiracy is an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime.
Yeah, somebody, thank you. Somebody you need to come through, Lori. Come on.
There has to be an agreement.
There we go.
There has to be a plan. The evidence in this case will show that Charles Vallow and I got married in February 2006.
Shout out to
It will show
Lori,
that it was
though.
my fourth marriage and Charles' third marriage.
Jeez.
At that time, we each had
No
two
judgment.
children. I had Colby, who was 9, and Tylee, who was 3. Charles had Cole, who was also 9, and Zach, who was 7. The
Okay.
evidence will show that our family moved from Austin, Texas to Chandler, Arizona in 2009. The evidence will show that Charles and I adopted our great nephew, JJ, who was born in 2012. It will also show that Charles and I were married for over 13 years and were
I'm gonna
raising 5
grade
children.
Lori after this.
The evidence will show that I was a licensed cosmetologist and worked as a hairstylist for 20 years while we lived in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
The evidence will show that Charles was a licensed life insurance salesman
And
and worked
hold on, Lori. Lori, we need to get into the meat and potatoes here. I suppose I'll give you a little leeway, but you need to get into the substance
as an
of the
independent
defense.
contractor selling life insurance policies and annuities and owned his
And based on the prosecution's opening, it sounds like Lori might be claiming self-defense, or at least she was claiming self-defense at the time of the investigation.
own business. The evidence will show that Charles and I purchased life insurance policies early in our marriage, and Charles had them issued to the maximum amount possible to each.
I believe the motive based on I was not taking notes when I watched. I was really listening because I was working. When I listened to the prosecution's opening, it sounds like the motive was a life insurance policy worth $1 million. Lori believed that she was the beneficiary, but it turns out, okay, these are allegations, okay? Um, but the prosecution is pretty much alleging that Lori believed that she was the beneficiary of $1 million policy. But it turns out after the decedent was, I don't know if he did, okay, he's deceased. So I guess the prosecution's yet to prove how he died. But the decedent had changed beneficiary prior. Obviously, it makes sense that he changed it prior to him ceasing to exist. But motive is money. Motive is money, according to the
The
prosecution.
evidence will show that Charles was 17 years older than me,
Okay.
and that because of Charles' age and an issue that he had.
Okay. So I'm gonna take notes for Lori here because we're gonna help her with cross-examination a little bit. So age.
15 years older than me, and that because of Charles' age and an issue that he had with high blood pressure, the maximum amount of life insurance that could be approved for Charles was $1 million.
Lori, hold on now. Okay, I have concerns here. And the reason why I have concerns is because the prosecution is claiming that Lori was after a $1 million policy. I just hope that Lori does not talk herself into a conviction.
The maximum amount of life insurance that I could
What?
be approved for because of my age and my health was $2 million.
Yeah, but Lori, the insured does not benefit upon their death. So I suppose she's trying to draw a distinction in the sense that she did not care about Charles' policy, or she did not care about being a beneficiary because her life insurance policy was worth more, but the decedent doesn't benefit from the insurance policy.
The evidence will show that throughout our 13-year marriage,
Okay.
that we always had life insurance policies. When a 10-year policy lapsed, Charles would shop for another company who would approve us for the maximum amount of life insurance.
All right.
The evidence will show that this was Charles' job. This is what he did. I helped him in this business, and this is what he did.
Okay.
The evidence will show that in 2016, Charles repurchased a new $2 million life insurance policy on me, and he was the sole beneficiary.
Listen, I don't want nobody to take life insurance out of me. Like, don't do it. I don't want anybody to do that. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
The evidence will show that Charles and I had a happy marriage for 13 years.
Okay, good.
That he was, in fact, a baseball player, and that he played high school, college ball,
Okay, what does baseball have anything to do with your defense?
and AAA ball, and that he was, in fact, a left-handed pitcher, a southpaw, they call it.
Lori. Okay. Hopefully everything comes together. I'm just getting concerned. Okay, he was left-handed. Okay.
But he was a right-handed batter, as could be attested to by anybody who knew Charles well.
Okay, so this might have something to do with her being attacked, or her brother being attacked, I suppose, in terms of left hand, right hand. We'll see where this is
High
going.
school baseball coach, Greg Davis. The evidence will show that Tylee was, and in 2014, our family moved from Chandler, Arizona to Kauai, Hawaii.
Okay.
We lived there for 3.5 years and returned to Chandler in 2017. The evidence will show that Tylee was 3 years old when Charles and I got married, and that when she became a teenager, the relationship between Tylee and her stepfather, Charles, became so difficult that Tylee and Charles had to seek a therapist, a family therapist, to stop them from fighting. The evidence will show that together, Charles and Tylee met with this therapist after we moved back to the mainland in 2017. The evidence will show that in April of 2018, Tylee's biological father passed away from a heart attack. And at that time, Charles called Social Security and made an appointment at the
Who
Social
died?
Security.
I'm sorry.
Charles and Tylee met with this therapist after we moved back to the mainland in 2017. The evidence will show that in April of 2018, Tylee's biological father passed away from a heart attack. And at that time, Charles called Social Security and made an appointment at the Social Security
I'm going to
office.
object to hearsay.
Sustained.
Oh, this is the one thing. Actually, when I was listening to the prosecution's opening, I'm like, I was wondering why Lori was not objecting. Not that she'd have any grounds, but I was just surprised that, she sat quietly and did not object.
It will show that we did get Social Security for Tylee for her deceased father until she was
Okay.
18 years old, and she was 15 years old at the time. The evidence will show that Charles and Tylee's fighting increased greatly in January of 2019 when Charles and I temporarily separated. The evidence will show that several people witnessed these terrible arguments between Tylee and Charles that increased to physical in 2019. Charles and Tylee had major increasing arguments, two in February of 2019, one of March in 2019, which was captured on video, one in May of 2019, one in June of 2019, and then the worst of all in July 2019. The evidence will show that in March of 2019, Charles pulled JJ out of his special school and moved him to Houston, Texas, while we were temporarily separated. Tylee and I then joined Charles and JJ in Texas in April 2019 to reconcile. The evidence will show that JJ was diagnosed with severe autism when he was 3 years old while we lived in Hawaii. The evidence will show that for 2 years, JJ was attending a school in Gilbert, Arizona, a special school for children with autism. It's called Lauren's Life Academy.
Okay.
The evidence will show that in June of 2019, in JJ's best interest, Tylee, JJ, and I moved back to Chandler, Arizona to re-enroll JJ back in Lauren's Life Academy since he had a difficult time with the
Somebody's
Houston,
phone is
Texas
ringing.
schools with no services for his autism.
What's up, Benji?
The evidence will show.
Hey, Allie. Hallie says, hot mess. I think she will talk herself into guilty. What's up, Benji? I don't know. She should have gone with an attorney, but we'll keep watching. I hope you guys had a good weekend.
Show that Charles and I agreed it was in JJ's best interest to be in school where more services were available to him. So Charles and I rented a house here in Chandler.
Oh my goodness.
On the day in question, July 11th, 2019, Charles and I were renting two houses, one in Houston, Texas, where he mainly resided, and one in Chandler, Arizona, where I resided with our two minor children, Tylee and JJ.
All right.
By this time, our three.
So far, she's doing good, though. So shout out to Lori. So far, she's doing really good.
Older boys, Colby, Cole, and Zach, were adults and not living at home any longer. The evidence will show that during the months of June and July, that my husband, Charles Vallow, began to send me threatening text messages. These messages were seen by my sister Summer, and that worried her. The evidence will show that Charles insisted on flying into Phoenix on July 10th, as we've heard from the state. The evidence will show that I advised Charles that he could not stay with us at the Chandler house because he could not get along with Tylee, and I did not want them to get into another fight
Definitely hearsay.
like they had 3 weeks prior.
Okay.
The evidence will show that it was ultimately decided between Charles and I on text messages that he would stay in a hotel because he traveled for business all the time and stayed in hotels all the time.
All
And
right.
I would book it for him since I worked for him and booked all of his travel. The evidence will show that Charles did, in fact, fly into Phoenix on Wednesday, July 10th, and stayed in the hotel that I booked for him. The evidence
All
will
right,
show
Benji,
that
sounds
Charles
good.
paid to fly my brother Adam Cox into Phoenix from Kansas on the same day, Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. The evidence will show that Charles planned to come to our Chandler home and pick up JJ and drive him to school on Thursday morning, July 11th, 2019. The evidence will also show you that Lauren's Life Academy opens its gates at 8:25 a.m. in the morning. And the evidence will show
Is my
that
mic
Charles
on?
showed up
Yep.
at our Chandler residence around 7:30 in the rental car I booked for
All right.
him.
Let's quickly go
The
back.
evidence will also.
I'm gonna have to write down these times, okay? Because again, my purpose here is to be standby counsel for Lori during her cross-examination.
Fly my brother Adam Cox.
Okay.
Fly into Phoenix on Wednesday, July 10th, and stayed in the hotel that I booked for him.
Okay.
The evidence will show that Charles paid to fly my brother Adam Cox into Phoenix from Kansas on the same day, Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. The evidence will show that Charles planned to come to our Chandler home and pick up JJ and drive him to school on Thursday morning, July 11th, 2019. The evidence will also show you that Lauren's Life Academy opens its gates at 8:25 a.m. in the morning. And the evidence will show that Charles showed up at our Chandler residence around 7:30 in the rental car I booked for him on the morning of Thursday, July 11th, 2019.
All right.
The evidence will show that Charles began texting with my brother, Adam Cox, before he entered our residence. Charles began texting with my brother, Adam Cox, before he entered our residence.
All right.
and that Charles and Adam were discussing in their text communications that my other brother, Alex Cox, was at the residence. The evidence will show that on the morning of July 11th, that Tylee was asleep in her room and my brother Alex was asleep in the guest room. The evidence will show that when Charles entered the house, only JJ and I were awake and present. The evidence will show that after we put
Hold
JJ
on,
in the
Lori.
rental car,
Hold
that
on.
Charles came back into the residence to receive his phone, leaving JJ in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running. He was 7 years old.
She had to emphasize that. All right.
The evidence will show that Charles began to scream at me when I refused to hand him his phone.
Okay. All right. Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes. Hold on.
The
Okay.
evidence will show that Charles began to scream at me when I refused to hand him his phone.
Why'd you have
The
his
evidence
phone?
will show that Charles screaming woke up Tylee and Alex.
All right.
The evidence will show that Tylee came out of her room with a bat to protect me, her mother, from her stepfather, Charles Vallow. The evidence will show that Tylee and Charles fought over the bat.
Okay.
And
So I
after
guess
a struggle
this is where the left hand, right hand dominance come in.
over the bat, Tylee fell onto the ground. And Charles lifted up the bat to hit Tylee with the bat.
Okay. And then
The evidence will show
brother
that
comes
Alex
in.
then intervened to protect Tylee from being
Okay.
hit with the bat.
All right. So the brother comes
He
in.
did not have a gun. He was not wearing a shirt. He was pulling up his jeans because he just woke up and came into the room where he heard the screaming.
Okay. Hold on. Let's think a little bit here. I don't know. Typically, I do not like defenses where a defendant is placed on the scene. My reason for that is because if the prosecution is going to get a conviction, they have to work for it. They have to prove everything beyond a reasonable doubt. And based on this evidence or the proposed evidence, Lori is right there at the scene. I don't like that.
The evidence will show that Alex and Charles got into a physical struggle for the bat and fell onto
Okay, she's emotional. We're seeing some emotion here. Okay, I don't know that. I don't know how the jury will receive it, but the emotions are always good.
the ground.
She'll obviously be overly scrutinized if she showed zero emotion. Okay.
The evidence will show that Tylee, who was on the ground, was lifted up by me and sent outside to get away from the struggle
All right.
and to protect JJ, who was still in the running car, in the rental car in the driveway. The evidence will show that after the struggle on the ground between Charles and Alex, that Charles prevailed with the bat and began to come towards me with the bat as I ran away from him into the kitchen.
It sounds so chaotic.
The evidence will show that at some point while I was running away from Charles, who was chasing me with the bat, that Alex apparently retrieved his gun.
What do you mean by apparently?
The evidence will show that I ran outside to the children and that Alex shot Charles in self-defense.
Okay.
The evidence will show that Tylee and I had both run outside without shoes. The evidence will show that JJ was still in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running and struggling to get out of the car. Tylee was trying to keep him in.
Okay, who will be your witnesses,
Tylee and I got into the
Lori?
rental car with JJ and drove away. The evidence will show you that I drove the children away from the residence towards JJ's school. Can I grab a tissue?
Yes.
Lori, I still don't understand why you did not go with an attorney. I want to know what you guys were in disagreement over.
The evidence will show that I drove the children through the Burger King drive-thru that Charles had promised JJ.
Wait, what?
The evidence will show that I drove the children through the Burger King drive-thru.
The biggest problem for Lori here is the fact that the folks or her children that are supposed to be her witnesses are no longer here, and she was convicted for causing their death. So, Lori, I don't know. Uh, hmm. Lori, I have questions for you.
That Charles had promised JJ. The evidence
That part
drive
doesn't
through
make
that
sense.
Charles had promised JJ.
All right.
The evidence will show that we continued to drive towards JJ's school and that the gate was not yet open at JJ's school. So we drove a block west of the school to a Walgreens where I ran in to purchase flip-flops for Tylee and myself so that we could go to a Walgreens not yet open at JJ's school. So we drove a block west of the school to a Walgreens where I ran in to purchase flip-flops
Okay, so they did not
Tylee
have
and
any
myself
shoes
so that
on.
we could walk JJ into school on the hot pavement.
It is Arizona, so. Okay.
The evidence will show that Tylee and I returned directly to our residence where we met with police in our driveway. The evidence will show that we were spoken to by the Chandler police officers. And the evidence will show that Tylee and I were told by the Chandler police detectives that Charles had passed away.
Guess that's not in dispute.
The evidence will show that we were put into a police van and driven to the Chandler Police Department. The evidence will show that Alex was taken by police in a police car to the Chandler Police Department, and that we were all three separated into interrogation rooms and we were each interviewed. The evidence will show that next, Tylee and I were brought back together into a room at the Chandler Police Department and were introduced to a victim's advocate who was very kind to us. The evidence will show that after speaking to the victim's advocate, that Tylee, Alex, and myself were put back into the police van and driven back to our residence.
Hold on. Who?
Show that after speaking to the
Oh, all
victim's
three.
advocate,
Got it.
that Tylee, Alex, and myself were put back into the police van and driven back to our residence. We were directed by the Chandler detectives to take the rental car and return later to the residence after we picked up JJ from school. The evidence will show that we did as instructed by the Chandler detectives. The evidence will show that we drove
What do you mean by
Alex's
that?
residence where we attended to the wound on the back of his head. The evidence will show that Alex was then contacted by the Chandler detectives to return to the residence so that Alex could walk them through the events that occurred with the detectives at the residence. The evidence will show that Alex, Tylee, and I did return to the residence as instructed. And the evidence will show that Alex entered into the residence with Detective Moffett, but that Tylee and I were met by Detective Inkland in the front yard.
Okay.
The evidence will show that at the time, Detective Inkland asked Tylee
What's
and myself
up,
if we had
Brooklyn?
Charles' cell phone. Tylee retrieved.
Oh, I forgot to explain. Yes, Benji, this is Lori Vallow Daybell. She is the defendant in this case. She's on trial for offing her husband. And to me, what's troubling so far is the fact that the folks that are supposed to be her, I'm getting distracted. I'm getting an email. And in any event, I'll read this when I'm done. So the folks, her children, that otherwise would have been her witnesses in this case are no longer here because she was convicted for killing them. Yeah, but this is Lori. She is representing herself.
Retrieved Charles' cell phone from the rental car and gave it to Detective Inkland at 3:11 p.m. on July 11th, 2019. And at that time, Charles' phone was placed in the custody of Chandler police detectives. The evidence will show that Detective Inkland asked us if we knew the passcode on Charles' phone, which Tylee proceeded to give to Detective Inkland. The evidence will show that Tylee and I left the residence to pick up JJ from school,
Okay.
while Alex remained at the residence with the detectives. The The evidence will show that by the time Tylee, JJ, and I returned to the residence, that all police, EMS, CSI, and detectives were gone from the residence and only Alex remained. The evidence will show that the next day, I contacted Chandler Police to inform them that Charles' belongings were still at the hotel. I asked the detective if I should go get them, and I was told that they would take care of it.
Benji said this is going to be
The
good for
evidence will
sure.
show that I asked the detectives,
There's no doubt about that.
what should we do next? And they directed us that they would contact us in about 3 weeks after their supervisor passed off their reports, and Alex could go to the police station and retrieve his gun. The evidence will show that the last thing I heard from Chandler Police Department until June of 2021, 2 years later, when I received a grand jury indictment from them for this alleged crime.
Okay, good.
The
Great
evidence
use
will
of
show that
alleged.
Chandler Police treated this incident as self-defense.
I'm going to object to that.
Objection sustained. The jury should disregard that last statement.
Okay.
The evidence will show you that my brother, Alex Cox, passed away on December 12th, 2019, almost exactly 5 months to the day.
What's a timestamp? 3:38:02. Yeah, this is problematic for Lori because all her witnesses are no longer here. I wonder what she's going to say about her kids, though.
The evidence will show you that my brother, Alex Cox, passed away on December 12th, 2019, almost exactly 5 months to the day after Charles, my husband, passed away.
Okay,
The evidence will show
good. She said Charles, my husband. That's very
that
nice.
Alex passed away from a blood clot in his lung.
Objection again.
I'll sustain the objection. It's not relevant for this matter.
Yeah.
The evidence will show you that I am the only person being charged with this crime.
I'm going to object to the relevance of that.
Sustained.
Come on, Lori.
As the state has
I
mentioned,
mean, Lori, didn't you write this out? Didn't standby here's the problem. I guess even if standby counsel said this is objectionable, Lori can decide to keep it in. So,
they're alleging that insurance money was my motive.
mm,
Social Security
I don't like. Again, I overanalyze every word that a person is saying. I did not like when she said that it's alleged that the insurance money was my motive. That is pretty much to an extent. I just don't like. I don't like that sentence because she's incriminating herself to an extent. She's kind of um again, I'm being nitpicky, but it sounds like she's saying I did not do this for the money. So I don't like that, Lori.
alleging that insurance money was my motive. Social Security was my motive. Spouses having insurance policies is not a crime. Collecting Social Security is not a crime. Self-defense is not a crime.
Yeah, I don't want
Family
people to have life
tragedy is
insurance on
not
me.
a crime. It's a tragedy.
Okay. Shout out to Big Lori. She did okay. She did okay, but she did okay. All right, Lori.
All right, the state can call its first witness.
Thank you. If I may go
All
back.
right. So Brooklyn says that she's claiming that she's a victim. Pretty much so. She's saying that not the husband, her brother came to her aid, her daughter Tylee came to her aid, and everybody else was acting in self-defense of Lori. As far as her opening, though, how do we grade Lori's opening? Let me think about it a little bit. I'm gonna work out. That's something I wanted to do previously with the other trials. I'm gonna work out a metric here. A metric on how to grade her opening. I suppose she's claiming it's a self-defense case. So she touched on that, and I think she did good. She did okay. Benji said she's had a lot of time to learn. I mean, she was on trial for an extended period of time, so she saw her attorneys do their thing, and she's been in the law library. But her opening was okay. It was lacking in some way. I was not necessarily moved, but then again, I know obviously the jurors in this case would not have, if Lori, ordinarily, again, she's representing herself, but under these circumstances, if we go back to Colin Griffith, okay? In that case, he had previously caused the death of his father. The jurors did not know that. The only thing the jurors knew was that, okay, somebody else died, but as far as who that person was and how they related, or if there's any relation to Colin Griffith, that was unknown. So if Lori, hopefully standby counsel, helped her in this case, but these jurors are not supposed to know that she was convicted for offing her children. If they know that, then Lori, you have problems. So, and by problems, I mean the folks are not going to be impartial. The jurors won't be impartial. But my sense is that the jurors actually do not know about her convictions. Okay, what are they whispering? Come on. I really just want to get to a cross examination because my duty here is that of standby counsel. So I'm supposed to be assisting. You cannot do proper cross. Who's this?
And then you said that you went.
Shoot, she's already cross examining. Hold on. Let's go back. We just need to know who the first witness is. Cross examination cannot be proper unless you actually listen to direct testimony. But again, when I get to the office in the morning, I'll rewatch some of this because at least there's a lag, right? There's enough of a lag where I don't have to be worried because it's, I don't know, 3-4 hour time difference.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Okay, who are you?
Sir, would you please tell the jury your name?
My name's Sergeant Erwin Worsbicky. I work for the Chandler Police Department.
How long have you worked for the Chandler Police Department?
June will be 10 years.
Did you have any prior law enforcement experience?
10 years in Illinois.
Okay. 20.
Back on July 11th of 2019, what were your duties at that time?
I was working as a patrol officer, I believe in beat.
Okay, so patrol, got it. Now let's get into Lori's cross examination. Okay, what are we looking at?
Do you recognize those as sort of screenshots of two different views during your body cam footage?
Yes.
State will move to admit exhibits 3 and
Okay. All right, let's get to the beginning of Lori's
Call.
The individual exiting the
that sort of end.
Public out.
well, go on. All right, so here's the thing. We listened to Lori's opening statement. Pretty much everything that Lori is going to ask these witnesses has to tie back to her defense of self-defense, okay? That's the only way she's doing herself any real favors on cross-examination. Okay,
When you
Lori.
were looking at it, were you So in this photo, when you were looking at it, were you
Is this
able to
right?
see here's where you are checking to see the pulse of this individual?
Yes, ma'am.
And did this also reflect what you had talked about of the blood pooling that had run towards his neck area?
Yes.
It sounds like the prosecutor.
Exhibit
What's up,
4,
old bag?
is this when we first see you walk back in and we see fire working
I
on?
missed you too, old bag. We all missed you. We're trying to figure out what you've been up to, girl. Okay. Go back to what and listen to what. No, we like having you here. So this is good. This is good.
The individual.
Yes.
That
Yeah, let's
individual who was on the call with 911 came out,
Actually,
that you
that
observed the
sounds
phone
like
with him. He was
Lori.
kind of holding it.
Yeah.
Did you ever see any other phone in the house as you were
Yeah, this sounds like Lori. Hold
When-
on. We need to go back to.
fire working on the individual? Able to see here is where you are.
3 and 4 admitted.
And if I may publish them.
Yeah, that sounds. Hold on. We need a better camera view or angle.
So in this photo, when you were looking at it, were you able to see here is where you are?
All right. Still sounds like the prosecution.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to get that.
There we go. I know what Lori sounds like now.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
By anybody or anything out?
Allowed fire to
No, I don't believe I did.
and came out. That individual who was on the call with 911 came out, that you observed the phone with him. He was kind of holding it.
Yeah.
Did you ever see
I'm
any-
exhausted, old bag. I had a long day. I had a long day. All the rest and restoration from this weekend went out the window today. I had a long day. I was working. I'm tired. I had a win. I had a win today, but that's whatever. Defense is appealing. But yeah, I'm tired. I'm tired. My man will be here in 2 weeks, so I'm trying to get all my hours in, and I'm gonna disappear. So
any other phone in the house as you were looking around? Anything obvious laying around?
I don't recall. No, I don't believe I did.
if this is Lori and this is cross-examination, she's not starting off very good right now.
No phone on the ground near the deceased male?
Not that I recall. No.
Okay, Lori, do you have, I don't know, do you have body worn camera? Lori, you have to ask questions that are on point. Yes, no responses.
After you had cleared the house, allowed fire to enter, and other officers were arriving, were you tasked with going out to put up some crime scene tape?
Yes, ma'am.
What does that mean?
It's just tape that keeps.
Wait, is this Lori or is this wait, what? I hope this is not the prosecutor that's asking this question.
the
What?
general public out, keeps the media out, so we have a secure scene.
Or is this the
And it doesn't get tainted by
prosecutor?
anybody or anything.
So that included both the house and some of the street.
Yes, ma'am.
Did that sort of end your involvement?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's a
Any other
prosecutor.
questions?
Okay, that is
Right,
the prosecutor.
cross-examination.
I was getting worried for Lori. So let's see. Cross starts for 146.
It's Sergeant. Where's Vicky? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to get that.
Shout out to Lori. That girl said what?
Okay. You said that the individual exiting the house was
I'm a little too excited. I need to calm down.
nonchalant. Is that correct?
I don't know if I use those words, but he seemed very calm, yes.
Very calm.
Yes.
Is that the same thing to you as nonchalant?
I wouldn't use that word, so I would say he looked very calm and unbothered.
But you said nonchalant a minute ago.
Okay, maybe he did. I don't know.
I
We
don't
did not listen to his
recall saying that.
testimony.
Okay. Does everyone act the same in a stressful situation that you've
Shout out to Lori. Listen, Lori was in the law library. Go on, Lori. Do your thing. Go, go, go. Listen, that's a fantastic question. It's a fantastic question because it's a classic, what is this? Not even defense. Even the prosecutor will ask that question every once in a while. Shout out to Lori
So
though.
I would say he looked very calm and unbothered.
But you said nonchalant a minute ago.
Okay, don't
I don't
argue over
recall
that.
saying that.
Move on,
Okay.
Lori.
Does everyone act the same in a stressful situation that you've experienced?
That's a
No.
good question.
Are you qualified to give someone a psychological evaluation?
A big shout out to Lori. She said the officer is now qualified. Okay. Okay.
No. You put your hand on my husband's neck for checking for a pulse. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you did when you first came in?
Yes.
I don't know. Something's up with the judge. Or maybe.
Did you perform CPR?
No,
No. Why not?
because it was apparent to me that he was deceased.
And that's not your protocol
To what?
to perform CPR until fire comes in?
Not if it's going to make it even worse because they had apparent gunshot wounds to the chest.
What
Lori's trying to argue that the police failed.
do you mean by that?
A patrol
If I
failed.
start pumping on his chest, it's going to start spewing blood out of his chest even at a more rapid pace.
Lori, don't get stuck now.
So when the 911 operator was telling my
Lori, what was your point? Why'd you ask that question?
brother to do that, that same thing would happen?
All depends on when the call came into dispatch.
But I'm saying if you're doing CPR on someone with a gunshot wound in the chest, on the chest.
Could, yes.
Okay.
Lori.
And you said something else. You said fire gives official time of death. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that time of death? Do you know?
I do not recall.
Shout out to Lori though.
And you cleared the house before fire came in. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were looking for some kind of identification.
When
Yes.
I cleared the house,
Old bag says Lori has a super sweet voice. Apparently, yay for the win. Old bag, don't ask Benji that. Okay, yeah, that was definitely the prosecutor. Apparently, she's flirty. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, Brooklyn says, is there a clip where you can see her getting ready for trial? Everyday transport, food delivery. I have no idea. I did not look into all of that. I don't know if the judge, maybe the judge has no patience. I mean, he's been pretty good so far. Based on what I've seen, he's treated her very well with respect. If he was frustrated, I do not know that he has made his frustrations apparent. So far, he's been good. Benji, something else. So Lori Vallow, it's what's up, Fever? No, not fire. What's up, Fever? She's referring to the fire department. Fire department.
Yes.
I was looking for other potential victims and or suspects.
Okay.
Okay.
But you were told on the phone that no one else was in the house but Alex. Is that correct?
I don't recall if I was told that or not.
Okay. Do you have any crime scene investigation experience?
Just my 20 years of
Ah!
experience.
I'm sorry. The officer said, "What, Lori? Don't ask. Why'd you ask that question?"
Crime
Lori?
scene investigation experience?
Just my 20 years of experience as a police officer.
Hmm.
And you said something about, and this is just for me to understand, you said something about the casings being to the left of him or to the right of him?
Lori, you're supposed to be taking notes.
I didn't say they were to the left or to the right.
Oh, did you say west or east?
No.
Oh, Lori, where's your standby counsel? Somebody should have been taking notes. Lori.
Sorry, that was my interpretation.
Sorry, I'm looking at the judge. He's rubbing
that
his
was my
forehead a little bit.
interpretation. Can you tell me what the weapon was that you found?
It was a handgun.
Was it a 45?
Don't recall.
Okay.
Okay, what's the significance of it being a 45, Lori?
Could you tell what
So what's up with the judge? Why is the judge's mouth open? What's going on?
direction the bullet came from?
Based off the way the body was laying, I could assume it came from where his feet were at.
Near the
What does
feet?
that even mean?
Did you see the projectile that was in the baseboard?
My goodness, Lori. What? Lori, hold on now. Lori, that's a problematic question, Lori.
I don't recall if I saw that or not.
Okay, what's the significance of the projectile being in the baseboard, Lori?
You said he did not appear alive, that you already thought that he was deceased. Is that correct? When you entered into the house?
Yes.
What time was that?
I believe I was dispatched to the call at 8:41. So I mean, if I was going to make a guess on what time I walked into the house, I would say I was probably at the residence within 10 minutes.
Uh,
So around
what did I do?
8:51 perhaps?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. And then when fire took over, is that the normal protocol for fire to take over and do the CPR? And so
I'll bag
you didn't do
something out.
CPR, but they did do the CPR. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You're right on time, Fever. Right on time.
On top of the gunshot wound.
Yes.
Fever, I've been good. I had a good weekend. I rested well, but all of that was undone today because I'm tired and it's only Monday. But I had a good weekend. I watched college basketball. I watched Michael Johnson's what is this? A Grand Slam track. It was fantastic. The athletes showed up. It was really good. It was really good. I hope you had a good weekend too.
Is that normal protocol?
I don't know what their protocol is.
Okay.
And I
I'm just
mean,
asking.
the athletes want some serious money. I still don't get the placement and the calculations of points or whatever, but some folks made some serious money. It was a huge payday for track athletes.
Because I wouldn't think to do that either. I'm just
Lori,
asking,
what's going on? Hold on.
is that correct?
Yes.
Hold on.
Yes.
And so you didn't do CPR, but they did do the CPR. Is that correct?
Yes.
On top of the gunshot wound.
Yes.
I'll say it on top of the gunshot wound.
Is that normal protocol?
I don't know what their protocol is.
Okay. I'm just asking because I wouldn't think to do that either.
Lori's a little nervous, or maybe she's flirting. I don't know. Something's going on.
And then you
Maybe it's
said
a
that
little
you went outside to put up the crime scene tape. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So after you cleared the house, you left and went to the front yard?
What's up with the judge?
Yes.
And then you were there for how long at the residence before you left?
I couldn't give you a time.
Did you stay for a while, or
Why would he
was
be
that the end of
embarrassed,
your
bag?
job there?
I don't recall. It was a long time ago. I have no idea how long.
No,
I was
Brooklyn,
actually
he
on scene
cannot
for.
do that.
And who is your direct supervisor?
I believe that day was Sergeant Nocella.
I'm sorry, what was the last name?
Nocella.
Okay. And what contact did you have with Detective Moffat that day?
Yeah, Fever. Hopefully yours was better than
I don't know if
mine.
I had any with him on scene.
Okay. What
Okay.
about Detective England, perhaps?
Well, Benji believes that Laura's enjoying the spotlight. I actually did not. I don't know. Maybe she is. Maybe she is. It's not something I thought of, but that's an interesting perspective.
I may have briefly spoke to her while I was on scene.
Okay, old bag
Okay.
agrees.
One time, 2 times, 3 times?
I couldn't tell you. a number.
Okay, Fever agrees.
And then when you have to report to your superior before you left the scene?
He was on scene, I would imagine.
Yeah, this is Big Lori.
Nocella? Is that
Yes.
what you said? Okay. And then you don't know what time you left, but you arrived at approximately 8:51?
Give or take, yes.
And then did you see me arrive at the scene?
I think as I was leaving, yes.
So approximately,
Okay, Lori needs to narrow these questions down. Because I'm still trying to figure out her angle. I'm trying to figure out what she's getting at. Maybe she's getting to time of her arrival, but she just needs to go ahead and ask the questions.
around the time that I arrived, you were leaving.
I don't know if I left when you arrived, but I was on my way out of the
Okay,
crime scene.
something along the lines of what time did you leave the scene, blah, blah, blah. And then he's going to say whatever the time is. And then you ask, did you see me did you see me arrive as you were leaving or something along those lines? And he's going to say yes. And obviously that's going to, going to determine the timeline of when she returned back to the residence. So
As far as I know.
Okay.
actually, now that I think about it, I've said it over and over again that sorry, my mic disconnected because I was, adjusting. In any event, I have a new what is this? Previously I'd say that Lori had to hire an attorney. I'm back there. Now I have a different perspective on why Lori should have hired an attorney. As far as her case is concerned, right? She is not the trigger person, okay? That would have been a good angle for what is this? That would have been a good angle for an attorney to attack. I do not know that Lori can do it effectively, okay? Uh, the husband's killed. She's not the person that pulled the trigger. Unless these folks actually have, these folks being the prosecution, unless the prosecution actually has, I don't know, text messages or some type of communication along the lines of, I need you to off my husband, something along those lines, this actually would have made a really good defense case. Now that I think about it, because if we're going to stick with Lori's opening, where she pretty much says that, having life insurance on your spouse is not a crime. I don't want life insurance on my life. I have personal life insurance, but my kid's a beneficiary. But I don't want people don't take out life insurance on me. Okay. Anyways, but this actually, now that I'm thinking about it as the evidence is playing out, this would have been a good defense case because the person that pulled the trigger is no longer here. And if we're going to go with this, this idea of what is this? This is really kind of complicated by, JJ and is it Tally? I think it's Tally or Tylee, something along those lines. It's complicated by their deaths. But otherwise, this is actually a good defense case. Now that this is playing out, this would have been a good defense case.
And then you
Come on, Lori.
said something about 2 wounds.
Lori, that's not how you ask questions. Not said something about 2 wounds. You have to you have to ask You have to ask pointed questions. Oh my goodness. Listen, don't let TV lawyers fool you. This cross examination is difficult to do.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And how did you see the 2 wounds through the shirt?
Just was an observation that I made when I saw him laying on the ground.
So did you see 2 holes in the shirt?
I'm not sure exactly what I saw.
Really,
when I was
old
there, but I
bag?
could see that there were 2 apparent gunshot wounds.
I
to
don't
the
know.
chest.
Really?
And then I'm sure,
No, let me see.
well, I won't speak for you. So
She's
when
up
they
there.
began CPR, they did open his shirt. Is that correct?
I have no idea.
Because when you walked by, his shirt was open.
Lori, are you asking? Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I.
please ask questions only.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. Are you asking a question? Are you just making statements? What's going on, Lori?
Did you discuss this case with Sergeant Nocella?
I'm trying to look up Charles.
I believe so. I would imagine
Oh,
he would have.
old bag is onto something. Oh, uh, actually, that is actually true. Old bag. That is wow. Yeah, he looks just like her, like him. Yeah. Oh wow. Hold on. Now you guys need to go look up what's his name? That's crazy. Now that it's kind of spooking me out a little. It's spooking me out a little bit because the resemblance is uncanny. Oh wow. Yeah, the first witness, the prosecution's witness looks just like the decedent. And they have pictures of him with hair. I'm trying to figure out, am I tripping? Is this the same person? I don't know. I don't know. Oh no, maybe I'm tripping.
Was on scene and he got briefed by the detectives.
Let's
He
see.
got briefed by the detectives? Is that what you
In
said?
fact, I would imagine yes.
Okay. And then have you
He was heading
spoken
to
to
show.
the case agent on this case? How many times would you say?
Who's the case?
I don't know. Laura should have hired an actual attorney. And Fever is saying that, she's done. There's somebody. There's a my mind is all over the place, but there's a prominent kingpin. His convictions were overturned last week. The name escaped me. So she needed an attorney to preserve her issues for appeal.
Case agent.
Oh, Detective Duncan. That's my
Detective
understanding.
Duncan? I mean, I've spoken to him many times in my
Okay, are
career.
you guys having a discussion?
Regarding
What's
this
going
case,
on?
how many times do you think you've spoken to Detective Duncan?
I couldn't even put a number on it.
Okay.
I would say very few.
Very few?
Mhm.
Like, how many would you guess?
I would say maybe 5 times.
Obag, Lori has a cosmetology license. Okay, I'm pretty sure she found a way.
5 times. Thank you. And would that be in-person kind of discussions or?
Yeah, I wouldn't even say they were discussions, probably just in passing.
Okay. So how many times have you emailed with Detective Duncan?
I think some of when I was at work, I was not on the chat or anything. I just watched. I was actually late because I should have set an alarm. I realized that trial was going on. I think there were probably, I don't know how many hours they were into this, maybe 30 minutes or something. But that said, though, I think that observers or viewers typically overly criticize or overly scrutinize criminal defendants. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I still cannot, maybe that would actually make a good research paper. I've never been able to figure out, I mean, there are parts of it that have to do with how attractive somebody, a defendant, is perceived to be. For instance, if you look at people like Sarah Boone, shout out to Sarah though. Sarah Boone, Lori Vallow, they're not as, I guess people don't take as much of a liking to them. Whereas if you look at somebody like Karen Reed or whatever, then people are swooning over them and they, um, pretty much marching in the streets for them and the like. But I don't know. Yeah, but people do over criticize criminal defendants. I'm thinking of Jody. This is a California case. I think her first name starts with a letter A. I don't remember, but she was also overly scrutinized. There's a I remember there's an interview back in the day where she was interviewed by some news station, if I'm not mistaken. And the comments of that video were people pretty much criticizing her for her being concerned about the way that she looked. And one of the people that were criticizing her for, I mean, she was concerned about how she looked. She wanted to know if she was presentable enough to be interviewed, right? And the news anchor, the interview, whatever, that woman had a face caked with makeup, and she had the nerve to criticize somebody else for being concerned about their appearance. Anyways, that's just me going off on a tangent. So let's get back to the case.
Concerning this case.
Objection or relevance?
Overruled, you can answer if you know.
I have no idea.
What about text messages?
No idea.
Phone calls?
Ma'am, I have no idea.
Okay. And your report that you wrote about this, about how long after the incident did you make your report?
I was done by the end of my work shift at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, Fever, I don't want nobody to take out life insurance on me. Like, go take out life insurance on your own life. Leave me alone, okay?
And then did you ever make any revisions to that report?
Look at
I
Lori.
believe so.
So you left the
Brooklyn,
scene
that's mean.
approximately
That is mean.
sometime in the morning, and by 4 o'clock that day you had written your report. Is
Yes,
that correct? And you've never changed anything on your report?
not that I recall, ma'am.
And the report is exactly as you left it when did you
This
review
girl
it
should
for
have gotten
this
an
testimony
attorney.
today?
Yes,
And it was exactly the same as when you wrote it at 4 PM on July 11th?
I don't know if I,
No, this witness definitely, it's weird. It's makes me a little uncomfortable, but he definitely, you just gave me an idea, old bag. I'm gonna I'll credit you for that, okay? I'll credit you for that. I'll actually create a video about that.
I wrote it at
Oh.
4 PM.
All
Well,
right.
I started a new channel today. It's called I Want a Real Lawyer. I did not have to, but I actually really like the name. And I considered changing the name of this channel, but I was like, but yeah, it's called I Want a Real Lawyer. I cannot find the channel anymore. But I'll have it, I'll look for it. I'll figure it out. And then I'll subscribe to myself. So yeah, I'll
By
By
4
4
p.m.
It appears to be yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, redirect.
shout out to Lori. That girl said what?
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, redirect.
All right, Lori. Lori did not, again, the purpose of cross examination is to really test the opposing party's evidence. And this is also an opportunity for the jurors to hear what your theory of the case is, or what your defenses of the case, or what your defenses are. Lori did not do anything. But shout out to her though. I liked that question where she asked about what did she say? Okay, the one about, where his experience, that was just terrible question. But I like the question, about her challenging the witnesses credentials or capabilities of judging another individual's demeanor. Okay, when apparently it was nonchalant, calm. There's a disagreement as to words, but shout out to Lori. Okay. All right, what's your not your co-counsel, but what's your standby counsel telling you?
Sergeant, you were asked about the shooter's demeanor.
There we go.
Were you just telling us
Yeah,
what
I said that was a good question. She did good there.
you observed?
Yes,
That was a good
What did you
question.
observe?
I just observed him very calm and collected after just shooting somebody.
And that's both seeing him come out as well as having some interaction with him on the curb.
Yes, ma'am.
Brooklyn, there are photos of Charles isn't it Charles Daybell? Because I thought that Vallow is her maiden name. Or maybe she switched back. Somebody switched back to something, but let me see. Well, Charles Vallow, actually. So I guess Daybell is her maiden name. In any event, there are pictures of Charles with no hair, and it's crazy. He look because I'm looking at the photographs, and he looks just like this witness.
When a person is been shot and you check for a pulse, and you believe they are deceased, as a police officer, are you supposed to touch the body?
Apparently, the judge is
No.
just staring at
Is the
her.
body basically a crime scene?
Yes,
Based upon your training and experience, did you believe that the victim was deceased?
yes, ma'am.
Do fire
Okay, so Fiva said, "What a waste of time. She didn't prove anything to the jury, but she tried." I mean, Lori does not have to prove anything because she's the defendant, but it would have been great for her to, advance whatever her theory is. Okay, and obviously for this witness, Lori is screwed. Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say that this witness really does not help Lori in any way. The only way that you possibly could have used this witness is as far as timelines are concerned. Basically, her saying that she arrived, or at least the witness or this officer, the patrol officer, saw her arrive at X time. And when he arrived on the scene, she was not there, but she arrived after, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours, or however long it took her to return from Walgreens, and I believe she said Lawrence Daycare, whatever it's called. So that's the only way she could have really used him. Under these circumstances, he did not witness, the altercation. He cannot speak to the self-defense. And again, he's not a crime scene investigator, so he cannot testify as to the trajectory of the what is this the shell casings and everything else. So she could have used him for timeline, but I don't know, Lori. She needs a little bit more practice. So Benji says Lori sounds so innocent and sweet. Yeah, she does sound sweet. This actually would have been a really good defense case, but she's messing up.
fire have EKG heart monitors and things that they use to determine if maybe you missed a pulse?
Yes, ma'am.
When you talked about giving CPR,
Mhm.
if an individual is now a crime scene, would giving CPR to that deceased person change the crime scene?
Yes,
And so as someone who believed the person was deceased, you did not want to modify or change the crime scene?
correct.
Here's an officer that knows about
You were asked
preserving
about the
the scene.
gun. Is the gun part of the crime scene?
Yes,
Were you responsible for processing the crime scene?
no,
Why didn't you go in there and pick it up and start handling it?
because I didn't want to alter where it was laying when he
Yeah, I agree, Fever.
got done using it.
You were asked a lot about when 911 was called, when you were dispatched. This was a few years ago,
Several, yes.
2019.
Yes, ma'am.
Dang, that's a long time.
Is there something called a CAD report that documents when 911 was called, when you were dispatched, when you arrived, and even when you left?
Yes, ma'am.
Would looking at the CAD report help refresh your recollection as
I mean, here though, Lori's making the prosecutor work a little bit because the prosecutor feels as though Lori poked some holes in the officer's testimony, and for that reason, she has to redirect.
to when those events occurred?
Yes.
If I may have my paralegal provide him with a copy of the CAD report.
You're breathing too hard.
You want me to?
Starting, does looking at the CAD report help refresh your recollection as to when the 911 call was received?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
Lori, you have to object. Lori, you have to object at this point because he is not supposed to be reading from the report. Lori, object.
Received at 8:36.
Lori's not objecting.
Does looking at the CAD report help refresh your
Come
recollection?
on, Lori, do something. He cannot be reading from the report.
As to when you were dispatched?
It appears it was dispatched at
Lori, you have to object. Where's Lori?
8:37.
So your memory of saying 8:50 or so was perhaps incorrect.
Yes.
Was looking at the CAD report indicate when you arrived?
Lori,
8:43.
I'm objecting on Lori's behalf, okay?
So again, that was a little earlier than your memory was.
Yes, ma'am.
And does looking at the CAD report help determine or refresh your recollection as to when you left the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
Lori, you have to object, Lori. Lori has to object. What is Lori doing?
It's 5:31
Oh
p.m.
my goodness, Lori. That's why Lori needs a real lawyer. Lori needs a
As
real
a
attorney.
police officer who is one of the first on scene, do you provide
Dang, Lori.
briefing or information to your sergeant or the detectives on scene as to what you saw, observed, and did?
If they ask me directly, yes,
Compound
somebody will
question.
brief them that's on scene.
But you have to provide somebody that information to then provide to the detectives?
Yes.
Why is it done that way?
Because usually a supervisor is going to want to know what's going on and what we did, just so the
Okay,
detectives
Lori
know
gonna
exactly what they're
recross?
walking into.
So for instance, if you had had to move the gun, they would want to know that, right?
Yes,
Or if you had moved the body, they would want to know that too, right?
yes.
And if you had found any evidence, would they want to know? That?
Objection leading. Lori, you need to object. Lori, you need to object. Lori needs to object.
That as well.
Absolutely.
Or she should have kept an attorney or hired another attorney.
And so is that what you would have to do that day when you are speaking to sergeant or detectives?
Yes.
Objection leading.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Oh, Lori, why weren't you objecting?
Does any member of the jury have a question for this witness? If so, please write it on
Dang,
the
Lori.
provided form. I'm not seeing any questions
I mean, the
come
judge should have asked Lori if she wants to recross.
down. You can step down, sir. All right, state can call its next witness.
Thank you.
Dang, Lori. Lori. Oh my goodness. I need to. I'm gonna send Lori a kite. Okay. I'm gonna send her. I'm gonna shoot her a little kite because she needed to object, but she did not. So that's why you get an attorney, Lori. Oh my goodness. Anyways. Oh, what a mess. Yeah, she does not know how to object. Oh my goodness. Anyways, old bag says, attention, Lori. Can you please come to your defense? Lori, Lori needs to. Oh my goodness! Come on, Lori. Lori, you need to do something. What? Because I'm trying to help Lori. I'm Lori's standby counsel. So, oh man, Lori, what the hell? All right. Yeah, Lori needs to do something. Lori needs to object. In any event, folks, I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna call it a night. But here's what I'm gonna do. When I get to work, I'm gonna finish up the rest of this testimony. Too bad I won't be yelling and trying telling Lori what to do. But I'm gonna do what I was doing during the YSL trial. Okay, I'll write my timestamp down, and then I'll come back with feedback, and then we'll see what Lori does. But Lori needs to object. Lori needs to do something. Listen, if you decide to represent yourself, then you need to actually do some lawyer work, like do some actual legal work, Lori. Oh my goodness, Lori. In any event, Lori is giving me stress, you guys. Lori has me stressed out. All right, folks. I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna call it a night because Lori is stressing me out. Lori is stressing me out. She's not objecting. She's not asking proper question. But I'm gonna give it to her. It's only one witness that I've seen her cross-examine thus far. So maybe she does better. Maybe she does better. As far as I'm gonna grade her a little bit. Let me grade her before I leave. Okay, so Fiva said she's messing up. Yeah, so as far as opening had potential. Okay. Opening had potential. But again, as Obag and Benji said, she has a really sweet voice. So she's pleasant to listen to. Um, but opening, she kind of, I mean, she got a little bit of it. She got a little bit of it because she talked about, what the evidence, what she expects the evidence to show. Her biggest problem is that she has no witnesses because the two kids are gone. The brother is also gone. Um, it's just her. And that's why this actually would have been a really, really good trial case. This would have been a fantastic trial case, like a really good defense case, but she's representing herself. Um, in any event, for I don't know, we're not gonna grade Lori, okay? We won't grade Lori. I suppose we'll keep the grades for real attorneys. As far as cross examination, she did okay. She did all right. um, she should have listened to me. Lori she should have been objecting, but she did not do that. Obek says, Obek said, Obek says that she loves that I'm yelling at her. Lori needs to do something. Listen, if you're gonna pretend to be an attorney for one day, you're gonna have to do some attorney work. Okay. So yeah, no, Lori's gonna give me high blood pressure. I can see it already. Lori's gonna give me high blood pressure. But in any event, let's call it a night. I'll be back tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then let's see, tomorrow's Tuesday, right? Yeah, that's good. 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be back. But Lori has me stressed out. She has me stressed out. Viva said, is it possible that she can be charged instead of being a defender? What do you mean by that, Viva? I don't know that I understand the question, but I'll wait for you to while you re-ask your question. I'm gonna play a bit of Lori. Apparently, I cannot get enough of her. Let's see, 41740. Let's find Cross.
Okay.
Shout out to Big
Yes.
Lori.
To the, you would, yes.
Oh, yes, you are calm. At all, just a conversation between like me and you, just normal, average tone, calm.
Okay, is this Cross?
And did you stay with him,
Okay.
your involvement?
Cross.
Okay, I'm waiting for you, Fever. I'm waiting for you to re-ask. Okay, somebody's whispering to somebody.
pronounce your last name for me? I don't want to get it wrong.
Shout out to Lori. Lori's trying to be likable. She's not trying to butcher people's names.
Krautheim.
Krautheim.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, Officer Krautheim.
At the
correct?
time, yes.
At the time. Okay. Thank you.
Wait, what? Did his name change?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Did he have a name change?
You mentioned about Alex being calm when he exited the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then he's also
I'm waiting for Fever. Fever's not re-asking the question. So Old Bag says, don't don't let her get you stressed out and do you in. Yeah. Okay, well, Fever, I've waited. You still did not. Let me see if I can figure out what you're asking. Fever says, is it possible that she can be charged instead of being a defender? Are you saying instead of being a defendant? Oh, okay. Fever did okay. So Fever says, "Oh, okay. She's saying she didn't do anything wrong cuz she's defending herself." She had attorneys once upon a time. She fired the attorneys. I guess she and the attorneys weren't getting along. Um but I think overall what Lori's really arguing is that she should not have been charged with her husband's demise because she did not pull the trigger, okay? Or at least, it's actually it's conspiracy. I don't like conspiracy charges because those are usually easy for the prosecution to prove. So must have been some form of agreement somewhere. Yeah, some type of agreement somewhere. Maybe they have text messages. Maybe somebody in the family takes the stand and say, no, she had planned this, and she enlisted Alex to take the husband out. Anyways, folks, let me call it a night. I hope you guys have a fantastic Tuesday. We will reconvene here 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. All right, Fever, have a great day at work. Old Bag, Benji, Brooklyn. There was a new face in here. I cannot see. Apparently, the truth will always be true. Oh, okay. But the text this chat cracked me up because he's like, "The hell you're yelling for? I cannot help myself." All right, folks, have a good night. I'm off. I'm off.